Hey guys, so what's up and welcome back to my channel. Nathaly Raya here and welcome to today's video. For today's video, I'm going to be sharing my story on having a tumor. This is going to be more of a story time just because it has been a part of me for the past few years. This is going to be my first time actually talking about it and making it public, so I'm a little bit nervous. But before I get started, I do want to say something that my doctor actually said to me. And that was, and I quote, "If you could have any tumor in the world, this would be the tumor to have." So, just to calm you guys down. Before we continue, if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe down below right now. Also, make sure you click that little notification bell button. It's right next to the subscribe button so you guys don't miss out from any of my upcoming new videos. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram at Nathaly Raya, that's how you can find me. Okay, so before we go any further, I'm just going to go ahead and say the type of tumor that I have, and that is the prolactinoma tumor. It is considered a benign tumor, and after researching about this tumor for so long, website after website, there's nothing specifically that pinpoints the symptoms that I was feeling. But not that long ago, I just came across something that it was you know what, let me try and research something different. So instead of doing the research on this tumor, I decided to ask the question. One of the many questions that I asked years ago, and that was, why haven't I had my period? And I came across this website that says 12 reasons for missed or late periods. And then I saw the "you have a tumor," which I'm going to read to you guys in a little bit. But let me get this out of the way first and tell you guys what a prolactinoma tumor is, pretty much of what Wikipedia has. So a prolactinoma is a benign tumor of the pituitary gland that produces a hormone called prolactin. It is the most common type of functioning pituitary tumor. Symptoms of prolactinoma are due to too much prolactin in the blood, or those caused by pressure of the tumor or surrounding tissues. So to me, just reading that just makes no sense to me. So I'm gonna read to you guys the second part that I found that just explains everything so much better and basically just pinpoints my symptoms that I had before I found out about this tumor. So this is the 12 reasons of missed or late periods. Okay, and this one is prolactinoma, or a benign tumor that affects the pituitary gland and causes it to secrete too much of the hormone prolactin. According to UCLA Health, prolactinomas are the most common hormonally active pituitary tumors. These can cause late or missed periods because they also interfere with your ability to generate estrogen. And when estrogen is low, your body has a hard time regulating menstruation and skips periods. So when I read this, I was like, yes, this is perfect. This just gives me all of the information on why I have this tumor and why I didn't have my period for many years. So this is where the whole medical history story comes in. So basically, I wasn't getting my period for a couple of years. I actually got my first period in 2006, 6th grade summer going into 7th grade. So that was the year that I got my first period ever. So meaning I had my period for 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. In 11th grade, which is 2011, my period was already irregular. My period had always been irregular, with it being only 3 to 4 days. I know majority of periods last 5 days. By 2012, I was no longer getting my periods. And at first, it was I would get 1 month, skip the next month, and then get the next month. And that's pretty much how it was the year previous to 2012. So in 2012, I was still only 18. I was already working, and I remember just being afraid to tell my mom that, hey, I'm not getting my periods, just because immediately I would have thought that I would have gotten in trouble, oh, you're pregnant. You know, Hispanic moms, they just assume the worst. Even if you get a cut on your knee and then you go home to your mom, they'll yell at you and curse you, why are you so stupid, why do you have to fall down? Especially because by then I was already dating Phoenix, and we've actually started dating in 9th grade, so she knew that, it could have been a possibility. And I just didn't want to go to her with that because I knew it was going to lead to 100 more questions. So I remember in 2012, I actually told my coworker what was going on and the fact that I was just missing all of my periods. And of course, she told me you should go get yourself checked. But also at that time, I was already 18 years old. I was already working. So my parents would have been paying for my doctor's appointments and hospital fees and all of that. And I also didn't have insurance, so I looked up like around how much it would be just to be seen, you know, like before all of the x-rays, and it was already like $200. And then with x-rays that would have been like thousands of dollars, money that I didn't have. So I just let it be. In 2013 I finally told my mom, I was like, Mom, I actually haven't been having my period for 1 entire year. And I'm not pregnant, I promise. So she definitely got really scared, and immediately she was like, okay, well, you have to make an appointment. And I was like, well, I'm not trying to pay that much money. So I was like, you know what, it's fine, and once I have enough money, then I'll go. So time just pretty much just passed by. An entire year went by. And in 2014, meaning that I had already had stopped having my period for 2 years, finally my mom was like, okay, I'm taking you to Mexico. I believe I took around $240, and we went to get myself checked. It was actually my first time getting a pap smear, and I was only 20 years old, and I feel like I heard that in the States your first pap smear is at age 21. So knowing that, I was a little sketched out, like, okay, I'm gonna be getting a pap smear at age 20 in Mexico for the first time. He did an ultrasound through the V, and I remember just him like checking everything, and at the end he said that there was nothing wrong, because obviously like my main concern was, well, if I don't have my periods, that means that I could never get pregnant, you know? So that was pretty much what we went in there with, like, oh, I haven't had my period, like, am I gonna be able to ever have kids? Pretty much. So that's why he did the ultrasound through the V, just to make sure that there wasn't anything off. I know there's like ovarian cancer and all of that. Luckily I don't have that, and he didn't see any of that. He pretty much just suggested to get more x-rays and perhaps an MRI, but again, like, I wouldn't have had the money for that. So he prescribed some pills. He said that was going to help with me getting my period, and he basically asked me the question, I wanted to have children, if you know, if I wanted to just go back to him and he would prescribe something else to help. So I took the pills, and I started my period within 1 to 2 weeks, so I definitely did got my period, and I was like really excited. I ended up losing my pills. So after getting my period, I was no longer taking those pills. Like, I had no idea where I had put them. I had put them in a safe place, but I just could not remember where I put them, so I stopped. So then the next month I didn't get my period, and in the back of my head it was always like, oh, well, he said everything is fine, there's nothing wrong down there. Oh, I remember him saying that the cause of this could have been stress. I was like, okay, well, I guess. During that time I was already the manager at the place that I was working. I was working a lot. I would open and close the store. So I was like, okay, well, I don't feel stressed, but maybe that could be a reason. Like, maybe I'm not noticing it, but maybe I am stressed. So that's pretty much what I was just like blaming it on. And then also in the back of my head, because he did say, well, if you ever want to get pregnant, just come back and we'll prescribe something else and then you'll get pregnant. I don't know, he just made it sound so easy that that's pretty much what I was thinking in the back of my head all the time, and the reason why I never went to go see another doctor. So fast forward 2 more years. 2 more years of me not getting my period. So I ended up moving in with Phoenix. Phoenix and I got married in 2015, and I actually didn't move in with him until 2016 because he went to Korea, and I was just too afraid to go to Korea. And actually my parents didn't let me go to Korea with him, even though I was married. They were just too afraid. They were like, oh no, like, that's not just how it's gonna happen, you know? So, which I regret now. I do wish that I would have gone with him to Korea. But anyways, I ended up going with him in 2016, and that was in El Paso, Texas, Fort Bliss. So by then, obviously, I would have already been covered. I would have medical insurance because of the Army. So that's when my husband pretty much pushed me into going to get myself checked. So honestly, if it wasn't for him, I would have never gone. So I'm glad that he made me make an appointment with my provider. So I saw my provider obviously in the Army clinic. I got another pap smear, which I was glad. I was like, wow, finally. I was already 22. So it was like 2 years later after my first pap smear. Funny story. I've actually read not that long ago that this might cause something about like breast milk, and I didn't realize this back then, but I would sometimes little white things would come out, and it was basically breast milk. Even though I wasn't pregnant, I would sometimes get it. I probably saw it like maybe 3-4 times in those entire 4 or 5 years. So I remember telling the doctor, and he was like, okay, noted. But then later I felt so weird, because after that they would always ask me like, are you still getting it? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, no, I've only gotten it like 3-4 times in the past 5 years. So I was pretty much embarrassed about sharing that information, but now I realized that that was actually a symptom that my tumor was also causing. So anyways, my provider sent me to get an MRI, and I did, and then they sent all of that information to my endocrinologist. I was then assigned to an endocrinologist, and he was the one who told me I have a tumor. And it's so crazy and like so dumb of me. I remember just being in the office with him and my husband, and he said that, and I'm just like looking at Phoenix. It's like, did you just hear what I heard? So the doctor was actually kind of surprised. He was like, okay, well, you did not reacted like how most people do. Usually everyone is scared and all of that. I was like super calm, and I was just like, oh, so what does this mean, you know? Like, for some reason I just wasn't scared. So then he then said, behold, if you could have any tumor in this world, this would be the tumor to have, just because it's non-cancerous. I want to say it's not deadly, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I don't think I've heard of any cases. I mean, he pretty much made me feel really comfortable. He was super nice. I actually freaking missed having this doctor. He just made me feel safe in a way. He said that because there is a cure to this tumor, there's like no reason to go into surgery, because it's pretty much cured with medicine, meaning that the tumor shrinks and then it won't affect you any longer. So he ended up prescribing me medicine, pills, and that was for me to take for the next 6 years. When I heard that, that's when I was a little shocked, and I was like, whoa, I'm gonna be taking medicine for pretty much sounded like the rest of my life. 6 years to me just sounded crazy, and I was like, okay, I could do that. By the size of the tumor, I don't remember exactly how many millimeters or centimeters that was. I don't know like how big it was. I remember him mentioning that it was the size of a quarter, which I look at a quarter now and I'm like, a quarter is pretty darn big. It just sounds crazy. Another reason why I wasn't as scared was because just everything that he was sharing with me, I was like, okay, well, this doesn't sound as bad, honestly. He told me that as soon as I started taking the medication, that everything was just gonna like start working, that I was gonna be getting my period, and because I was gonna be getting my period, I would be able to get pregnant. So that was another question that we had, if we were ready to have children. And if we were, there would be nothing wrong with that. That there's been tons of females who have had this tumor and were taking medication, ended up getting pregnant within like 2 months, and obviously you have to stop taking this medication. And even females who gave birth like back to back, meaning that they stopped taking the medication for like 3-4 years and then jump right back into it, and everything was fine. That your tumor doesn't really continue to grow. It pretty much just stays at that size. I don't know, that's pretty much what I remember. So I was like, okay, well, if I want to get pregnant, I could finally get pregnant because I'm finally gonna get my period. So it was pretty much a good day for me after hearing all of that. So yes, I immediately started taking that medication twice a week, and I got my period within 2 weeks. And I was really excited. I was like, finally, like, I'm doing everything right. I'm not going to Mexico. Like, this is legit. I got an MRI. We finally know what is wrong with me. So the next month I got my period, and then the following after that, and I haven't stopped having my period since. The following year in 2017, I went back for my second MRI. 1 year later, obviously, and there was definitely good news. My tumor had shrunk like tremendously. He said that it went from like the size of a quarter to the size of a dime. So it shrunk more than half its size. And that was just like overall good news. I remember calling my mom. I just remember like sharing that good news. So yeah, in 2017, I was already 24. The doctor had suggested for me to skip 2018 on getting an MRI. So he suggested for me to do it in 2019, which was just last year. In 2018, the end of 2018, Phoenix and I moved to Germany. So that means that I would have a new doctor. Everything would just be different. But something that the RMA does is that they won't send you overseas or to a new location without knowing that you're gonna have access to, like, if you need special treatments. Like, I needed an endocrinologist, so they had to make sure that there was an endocrinologist over here. If there wasn't, then we would have never come to Germany. So skip 2019, which was just last year in March. Just about, it's gonna be 1 year that I've had my last MRI. And keep in mind that I now have a German endocrinologist. So there's like that language barrier. Obviously they know English, but just not like at 100%. So that was a tiny bit of a struggle for me when I went to go see him. I got my MRI, and once he called me into his office, he said, well, you're good, you're clear. And I'm just over here like, what do you mean? Like, that's all you're gonna say to me? Like, where's all this information about my tumor? So I tell him like, what do you mean? What about my tumor? And he legit said, if it wasn't for you telling me or this paperwork, I would have never known that you have had a tumor. He basically said that he didn't see anything, so that's it. He didn't say you're good to go until I asked. I'm like, okay, so like, what does that mean? Like, I'm good, like I could leave, like there's nothing wrong with me anymore, you know. So it all just seemed a little bit sketchy. So I asked him, what about my medication? Should I still be taking that? Because I was told that I'm supposed to take it for 6 years. And he said, well, if you don't have nothing, I don't see why you should be taking them. So that was a decision that I had to make like all over again on my own, just because I wasn't like 100% about this doctor. I wasn't like, he didn't give me that reassurance. It's just so weird. Maybe I wanted it to be more like a bigger deal, you know, finding out that I no longer have anything, like more information. Because let me tell you guys this, my first endocrinologist said that that tumor was never going to go away, that it will shrink into this like tiny little dot, little pebble, where it would no longer be affecting anything. Like, it wouldn't grow back, it wouldn't touch my brain, it wouldn't like mess with anything. It just wouldn't be effective, like just this non-existing little thing. So that's always what I had in mind. So for him to say that there was nothing was kind of like concerning. But I ended up going home, telling my mom, my husband, and asking them like, what should I do? Should I still take my pills? So I had to make the decision of, you know, either stop or continue. And I have continued taking my medication just because I am so afraid that if I stop, I will no longer get my period. And it's crazy because I have actually ran out of my medication, and I continue to go back to the clinic to get it renewed. I feel like if I shouldn't be taking the pills, and they would take it off and they would say, okay, well, you're good, you no longer have to take these, you know. But the fact that they keep like renewing it, just, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to continue taking them until I complete my 6 years. And of course, my mom was like, okay, well, you should get a second opinion, like, you know, go see another doctor. But I'm like the type that will not go see a doctor unless I'm like specifically told, like, you need to make an appointment right now. My thoughts right now are letting 2020 just pass by, and then in 2021 I will probably make an appointment to go get that second opinion, to get that MRI, that final one. And if they say that I have like absolutely nothing, then I'll feel like more comfortable. I'll stop taking the medication, because by then it would be 6 years. It just sounds insane that this has been going on for so many years. So before I end today's video, I do want to like say something that I didn't really say in the beginning of this video, just because I wasn't sure if I was going to say it. But I just feel like there's going to be a lot of people asking like, oh, well, you should have cared about your health, you know, you should have gone to the doctors like a lot sooner, and this and that. And I totally agree. Like, anyone who can possibly be going through something like this, even if you stop getting your period for 2 months and you're not pregnant, like, you should definitely get yourself checked. But I let so many years pass by. I said it was because of the money, and partly it was because of the money, but something that I didn't really share with like my family was just because I was just like always so afraid that I wouldn't be able to have children. Like, it's just a thought of like going to the doctors and hearing at like age 18, 19 that you can't have children. Like that would have just been like devastating. So that was something that I was always just like pushing back. Like I didn't want to hear that, especially at that age. Like I just didn't want to think about the possibilities. So that's why I pretty much just kept like throwing it under the rug, just not trying to make a big deal about it, and just like thinking like everything's gonna be okay at the end, you know? And I know it like sounds horrible and all of that, but I was definitely afraid. Obviously, I want children. So that to me was just like I don't want it. Like I don't want to go to the doctors. I don't want to be told, you know. So yeah, I do want to say thank you to every single one of you guys who sat through this entire video to hear me talk about my tumor. If any one of you guys has gone through something similar to this and you guys want to share, or if you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. Or if you guys don't feel comfortable and you guys want to message me privately, you guys can message me on Instagram at Nathaly Raya. I always leave it linked. And overall, I'm just literally glad that I got to share this with you guys, just because this has been like a huge part of my life, like since literally 2012. Anyways, don't forget to give this video a huge thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed to join the Raya family. Share this video if you think someone is going through something similar to this. Hopefully it could just like help someone out, because I remember Googling the crap out of this whole I haven't had my period in 1 year, and then 2 years, and then 3 years, and I found absolutely nothing. So I don't think I have anything else to say, but I love you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys soon.